Hello, us again.
4 episodes down and the lockdown is coming to an end.
We may not have been able to deliver the show how we had originally wanted.
But producing this show has been an exciting, if unusual, experience.
And we are proud of what we've accomplished.
From Skype interviews
to keeping from going stir crazy in self-isolation.
And editing a pre-recorded bulletin for upload.
We knew the challenge and we faced it head on.
And we came out successful.
The future is promising.
But we must stay the course.
And make sure we keep on track.
So that we can look forward to resuming our normal lives post-lockdown.
Now it's time for episode 4 of The Lockdown. We hope you enjoy it.
Hey there, I'm Nadia.
And I'm Will.
And welcome to episode 4 of The Lockdown, brought to you from isolation by the La Trobe Upstart crew.
This week on the show, the struggle of migrant workers shut out from government aid schemes.
We take a look at some of the creative ways small businesses have been adapting to lockdown and look forward to what the future holds for the entertainment industry after COVID-19.
We also analyse Australia and New Zealand's chances of success in bidding to host the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup.
And we take a look at another lot of recommendations from our streaming team.
And we'll check in with Gladys one last time to see if she's finally found her niche.
But first, here's Megan with the news headlines.
Thanks, Will and Nadia. This is Megan Lansbury with the last news updates for the lockdown. While today marks the first day of winter, it also marks the day that restrictions are continuing to ease across Victoria. As of midnight last night, outdoor and indoor gatherings were increased to 20 people, and cafes and restaurants were allowed to reopen to provide dine-in options for a limited number of customers. The attendance numbers for funerals and weddings were also increased, and a number of services were allowed to reopen, including beauty parlours, tattoo parlours, public libraries and outdoor gyms. A coronavirus cluster in Keilor Downs has left 13 people infected, forced 2 schools to close down, and left 100 students in self-isolation. The cluster has been identified as 2 households who have been visiting over the last couple of weeks for small gatherings. A 3-week extension to Victoria's state of emergency has been added. A 22-year-old man has been charged for murder after being arrested over a stabbing incident in the CBD overnight. The body of a man who was stabbed to death was found inside an apartment building yesterday. And the first day of winter will not go unnoticed today, with the cold front set to hit Victoria as the city hits a high of just 13 degrees. It is good news for those who are keen to kick off the snow season, with many major ski resorts confirming they will reopen in 2020, with the 24th of June looking like it's the date to hit the snow. That's all in today's news updates, and it's back to you, Will and Nadia.
Thanks for that, Megan. Don't forget, you can follow along from home on Instagram at upstart_LTU. Increases to youth allowance and job seeker payments, as well as the rollout of the JobKeeper program, have provided a much-needed safety net for millions of vulnerable Australians in these difficult times. But there are those that fall through the cracks. At the beginning of April, Scott Morrison told migrant workers in Australia that it was time to go home, making it clear that they would be shut out of government subsidy schemes. Peter has put together this report on the struggle many migrant workers and international students are facing at this time.
Migrant workers have been majorly affected by the coronavirus. Currently, they are not able to access any of the government packages designed to support local workers at a risk of unemployment. Calling on the Morrison government to change these restrictions is Director Matthew Kunkel from the Migrant Workers Centre based in Victoria.
I think the challenge for us as a society is to find out a way to support these workers, to make sure that they don't go hungry and that they do have a place to call home. And the only way for that to happen is for the federal government to step in and make sure that all workers are provided with income support.
In response to the pandemic, the federal government doubled its unemployment benefit, JobSeeker, to over $1,100 a fortnight. It also introduced JobKeeper, a temporary subsidy allowing eligible businesses to access $1,500 per fortnight for each employee on their books. However, temporary visa holders are excluded from both schemes.
1.1 million people in this country don't have any access to JobSeeker or JobKeeper. They don't have any access to any other form of payment either. And it's a real issue because we need to look after absolutely everybody. We need to make sure that no workers left behind in this process. Migrant workers are already in dangerous, demanding and dirty work, and they are the first to be thrown away. And we've seen that during this crisis, with the government telling them just to go home. But the reality is that many of them can't even go home. Many of them, even if they wanted to, either don't have the money to go home, or the borders to their countries are still shut because of this pandemic. And in those circumstances, and indeed in any circumstances, there's a moral obligation on the government here in Australia to take steps to make sure that everybody is looked after.
Hilmi is a current student studying at La Trobe University who moved from Sri Lanka to Australia last year with his wife. Hilmi says he was treated like an outsider as he was told if he could not stay here to go back to his home.
It was terrible because it's not like we can go out to find jobs, or like there's so many questions we couldn't answer and there's no one to answer. The only answer given by the government is, if you can't stay here, go back to the country. And that was a terrible answer, because even recently some students went, but at the moment when the government informed to go back to the country, in my country, the airport was closed. I didn't have any choice. I had to stay here. Even if I want to go, I can't go.
Matthew believes that the government isn't treating migrant workers fairly, which may lead to racism. He and his centre believe that all people should be treated equally regardless of their visa status.
The biggest thing at the moment about what's fanning racism is the government's failure to treat migrant workers in this country like people and to treat them equally. At the Migrant Workers Centre, we believe that all people have the right to be treated equally and to be treated fairly, regardless of what visa status they have, whether they have a visa, whether they don't have a visa and they're here undocumented. Everyone should have the same rights.
Recently, it was revealed the government made a significant accounting error with the JobKeeper scheme, meaning it would cost around $60 billion less than it was originally forecasted. This has led to renewed calls from the Migrant Workers Centre and others for the eligibility criteria to be extended to include temporary visa holders. However, the government has so far ruled out any such changes. Peter White reporting back to Will and Nadia.
Thank you, Peter, for that report. Next up, we spoke to a range of small businesses in the entertainment and hospitality industry to see how they've been coping with the pandemic and what they see the future holding for their industries.
When we think of entertainment, a lot of us think of concerts, festivals, and expos. But for our last episode, we took a look at how small businesses are keeping us entertained during lockdown through live-streamed acts, virtual beer tastings, trivia nights, and date nights for two. With small businesses struggling to adjust to the ramifications of COVID-19, Simon Hall, the venue manager at Molly Rose Brewery in the affluent suburb of Collingwood, has worked out a way to bring entertainment to your front door. With Collingwood being the hotspot for rising businesses, including bustling bars and breweries, these new restrictions force Simon to get creative.
A little bit more congruent kind of behaviour, so they're at home, they get to drink this really special beer, which is a collaboration with Black Hearts and Sparrows, and then they also get to play this game with a code that's on the can. So it's been really fun. Getting it designed with Louis, who's a really good game designer, and it's just sort of adding to the experience, I suppose.
Surviving during the pandemic has encouraged small businesses to collaborate to provide entertainment through a range of avenues.
Put all our beers into can so that we could sell it online. We also did collaborations with bars and restaurants like Falco. That's a bakery up on Smith Street. We did a Friday Pie Day with them. It's nice to sell a couple of products from some neighbours like the chocolate and the coffee as well. We always tie that into a beer as well. So you might have a coffee and a beer deal, or chocolate and a beer deal. Everything in a beer deal, really.
Looking forward to how entertainment can change in the future, we spoke to Brett Davies, the production manager at Power Productions, to see what the industry could look like after COVID-19.
I think too, in this business, you're always taught to improvise, whether that's doing staging or anything, because stuff goes wrong all the time with the weather, all that, and you understand how that works. And when something happens like this, nobody batted an eyelid. All we came up with was different ideas as to how we were actually going to get the trucks out again and start. And I think that's a really good thing.
While live streaming for artists has grown in popularity, Brett says it's a subtle art of getting it right to engage your audience in a way that's conducive with their brand.
On one hand, you have to be careful of brand damage. And what I mean by that is that you're used to seeing an artist in a certain light, I suppose, in a certain environment, and it's an exciting environment, and you've got the audio, you've got the lights, you've got the band. But then as soon as you plonk them in a stale room where they're playing an acoustic guitar or they're trying to play together, that's the first thing that's the excitement that you miss. And then if the lighting's not right, if there's latency, you get the brand damage happening because your brain only remembers the last time you saw them. And if that was on a webcast, it's not a good thing. It'll take a long time to rebuild that.
While nothing will compare to the live show experience, small businesses streaming gigs and providing interactive games makes entertainment more accessible during lockdown and in the future.
We are the eternal optimists, and I think that you've got to be optimistic in this business to give people an idea that things are actually going to be, that are going to be better, and they will be better. And they won't just be better. I think that it'll be just superb. I think that there'll be so much room for new ideas, and new artists will emerge, and new opportunities and all that sort of thing. But as far as our company goes, we are in a good position, I guess, and with the artists as well. So there's a lot of communication with them. We'll pick up exactly where we left off.
So until we can get back to live events, support your local businesses and have fun. Back to you, Will and Nadia.
Thanks, Gladys, for that report. Now it's time for sport, and with a decision due at the end of next month, I took some time out this week to analyse Australia's chances of winning the bid to host the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. Let's take a look. Almost 10 years ago, Qatar won the bid to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Australia came last, only receiving one single vote. This month, FIFA will decide who will host the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, with 4 bids competing for that privilege. Australia will be bidding alongside New Zealand and will be up against Brazil, Colombia and Japan. Due to the success of last year's World Cup, the tournament will expand from 24 to 32 teams. Australia and New Zealand's bid was initially 2 separate bids but combined in December last year. It would be the first time that a FIFA event would be held across 2 separate confederations. Australia is currently the highest ranked team among the 5 bidding countries. The bid has put forward 8 stadiums across 7 cities, including a rebuilt Sydney Football Stadium and a renovated Stadium Australia. They will be joined by 5 stadiums across the Tasman, including the famous Eden Park. Japan will be Australia and New Zealand's main competitor, being home to the 2011 World Cup winners, the only Asian team to do so and the only champions among the bidding nations. Japan's bid consists of 8 stadiums, including 3 used in the 2002 FIFA World Cup and the new national stadium in Tokyo built for the 2020 Summer Olympics. There are 2 bids in South America, including Colombia, who are putting forward 10 stadiums. Both bids are in the lucrative North American time zone, which will be favourable to FIFA. Finally, Brazil is the other South American bid, which will use 8 stadiums, all built or renovated for the 2014 FIFA World Cup, including the legendary Maracanã. Brazil have also recently hosted the last Summer Olympics, but both events have been marred by allegations of corruption. With less than a month to go before the decision, fans will be eager to know how Australia and New Zealand currently fare against the competition. Women's football journalist Samantha Lewis says we should be confident in Australia and New Zealand's chances.
We're basically in pole position now, and a lot of that has got to do with, I think, what's happened over the last couple of months. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic has sort of thrown a spanner in a lot of works, and it has sort of highlighted a lot of the, I guess, the sort of the deep-rooted problems in a number of the nations who are actually bidding. The Australia-New Zealand joint bid is perhaps the strongest in a number of different ways. I mean, one of its great strengths really is its emphasis on gender equality. It's really the bid that seems to fully appreciate the role that sport can play, sort of a force for social good and for cultural change. So I'm confident. I think a lot of other people are quietly confident, but again, it's FIFA. We never really know how these things are going to work. You know, you saw when the 2022 Men's World Cup was announced in Qatar, that sort of came as quite a shock to a lot of people because it was not at all considered a suitable nation to host it. So the politics that happen in terms of this voting is a very different sort of beast to what the actual bids present.
A successful bid would leave a lasting legacy for Australia and New Zealand, both on and off the pitch.
The hosting a Women's World Cup would have two sort of really significant impacts on both countries. The first is obviously the economic impact. So both governments are really supportive of trying to get this bid up and running and wanting to win it because they know that the amount of money it could generate, not just from tourism, from fans coming to Australia and New Zealand and spending money, but also from sponsorships, from broadcasters, and from leaning into a lot of markets that I think women's football hasn't really tapped into quite as much yet. So Southeast Asia and Oceania in particular. You know, having something like that in our own backyard would generate a huge number of fans. And you know, the women and girls sport community got the greatest potential, I think, of any other community sort of in the world. So if you're able to give them a product like a World Cup, you're able to inspire basically a whole new generation of fans to become interested in your sport. And the second thing on top of the economic impact would be the cultural impact. Having the visibility and the accessibility of women's sport in the format of a World Cup, of having international teams come to a place like Australia, New Zealand, and being able to broadcast those images to, you know, millions and millions of people, possibly billions of people, which is what we saw in the 2019 World Cup. Over 1 billion people tuned in to watch it. You know, having that sort of exposure for women's sport is so important. It's more than about the sport. It's more than about what happens on the field. It's about sending a message about equality and inclusion and diversity and the importance of those things, not just to Australian culture, but to world culture. You know, we live in a very divisive, a very fractured world at the moment. And I think sport has a really unique ability to bring people and communities together.
FIFA will vote on the hosts of the 2023 Women's World Cup on the 25th of June. Will Moody reporting for The Lockdown.
Thank you, Will, for that report, and fingers crossed that Australia is successful in its bid. Next up, we check with Gladys one final time to see if she's finally found her niche.
What are you saying?
I'll just be like, it's the end. It's the end. The episode where I'm supposed to find my niche. And with the help of some of you, the ideas have been thrown out there. And this time, I tried everything. Welcome to Gladys Finds Her Niche, and this week she tries everything!
So first I tried to do a backflip.
On how to do a backflip.
But it didn't work out, so I tried a front flip. Didn't get quite there. So I did gardening. Unfortunately, the caterpillars have gotten into our bok choy, so I'm going to plant some carrots instead. Let's get rid of these. Planted there. And snipped here. If that wasn't fun enough, I then went on to try different types of dancing. First is salsa. Then contemporary. Some shuffling. Oh, and ballet. Also disco. And of course, miming. There's more. I then went on to do exercise. That I couldn't keep up with. Oh! What? And I also caught the sunset and I did some meditation.
So, do you think you've found your niche?
Farming was fun, and skating was good. Cooking was really good, but nah.
But do you think you've found your niche?
I haven't found my niche. But what I have found is that one person can't just have one niche. And for me, I think everything was my niche, including making these videos. But I think the best part of that is that I will spend the rest of my days finding out different niches. But in the meantime, here's to me finding my niche. Is that it?
Shakespeare Sonnet 17. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Or shall I? Thou art. Thou art more lovely and more temperature. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Or eyes can see. So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Shall I? Let me shake it. But thy eternal summer shall not fade.
It's actually really nice here.
You just ruined my shot.
Joining us for the last time is Gladys. Hey Gladys, how are you going?
Good, how are you guys?
Yeah, really good. So we had the privilege of having a look at some of your niche activities, and this week you really went all out. So there was nothing that was off limits for you. How was it? How did you find it? What were the good bits?
Well, what I did was I put on a suggestion box on my Instagram and actually asked for ideas from everyone, and everything I did in the video was actually the ideas that I received. So I got about 140 suggestions, and
Wow.
I tried to fit in as many of them as I could. And there was some that I didn't get to do, which was like craft and knitting and stuff, but everything that I did in this video was what everyone had suggested. So yeah.
So you didn't find a niche in the end. So
No.
it was all a big waste of time. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I don't think it was a waste of time. I think that it took me to do these videos to find out that even like me making these videos is me finding a niche, and that I don't think I'll ever settle for having one little hobby. I think that from now on, I'm just going to try all different things, and I guess either I like it or I don't, but the best bit about it is that I get to try out different things all the time.
Beautiful. And there were some activities that you actually did fairly early on, like you went to the farm. We know that you tried skateboarding. Are there any of those activities that you actually tried for the first time during this niche segment that you think that you will continue to do after this?
Well, I wanted to do more farming. So ideally, I wanted to ride a horse on a farm. And I think that aspect, I'll go have a look and see what else I can do in that field. Cooking, I will always cook. And I think we all figured out that even though that I tried like a really hard recipe and I didn't even think it was going to work, like I was able to do it, and it was a massive pleasant surprise at the end. And I think that cooking has always been like one of the hobbies that I love. And yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us again, Gladys. And we're all very proud of you and how you've got out of your comfort zone and tried new things. And we wish you all the best in future niches.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed having everyone watch me try out different things. And thank you.
Thanks, Gladys. See ya.
Thanks. Bye. Now it's over to our streaming team for one last time with a few recommendations that you might like to watch with a few close friends now that restrictions have eased.
Hey, it's Aisling
and Eleni,
and this is our segment called What's Streaming, where we watch and review the latest and most underrated TV shows that are streaming at the moment.
Since restrictions in Victoria have been eased a little, we've been able to film our final show together.
Yes, we have, but don't worry, we are still social distancing and ensuring that we are 1.5 meters apart at all times.
For our final episode, we'll be discussing and reviewing Public Enemy, which is a Belgian crime thriller streaming on SBS On Demand.
The series opens with a convicted serial child killer who has just been released from serving a 20-year sentence. He is then placed in a monastery to protect him and guard him from the public, and Chloe Miller, the police officer, is then sent to guard him.
But when a local child goes missing soon after the killer's release, the town builds with tension, trying to figure out what's happened.
À 6h30 hier matin, la police a découvert le corps sans vie de Noémie Vanas, à proximité de la route de Rancière.
So, Eleni, what were your thoughts on this week's show?
I really liked this one. I thought it was really unique and different. I thought it had really good suspense as well that helps you coming back and wanting to watch more. And for me, it had a lot of twists and turns and went on a way that I really didn't expect it to, which for me just engaged me even further into the show.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree there. I really enjoyed this week's show. I think because it's a crime investigation and there's all this new information and clues coming up, and you just feel like you're in the story with the characters as well. But for me, I think a little bit of a downfall would have to be the length of the episodes. They're about an hour long, and I don't know if it's maybe like my short attention span or possibly that I don't have enough time in the day, but I just thought that an hour was probably like a little bit too long for a series.
Yeah, you can definitely lose people with the length of a show being too long, but for me, I really enjoyed the length. I like those longer TV shows. I did think though that the subtitles took away from my engagement. It is a French show, which is obviously not a problem, but I thought that you kind of lose focus if you don't pay really close attention. You have to give it your undivided attention, and if you don't, you'll really miss important stuff. So for me, I had to go back a few times and rewatch some stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I missed a few points by just like going on my phone for a few seconds. But apart from that, I think overall the storyline just makes up for it. It's just a really unique storyline and something I haven't really seen before, and all the characters are just so intriguing. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so did I. I do want to mention though, just as a possible trigger warning for any parents out there is a bit of child abuse.
Dehors, il y a quelqu'un qui se fait passer pour moi et qui tue en mon nom. Qu'est-ce que vous comptez faire pour ça?
So Eleni, what would you give this show out of 10?
I scored this week's show a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought the storyline was really unique and different. However, I did think there was an overwhelming amount of characters in there that you have to get to know straight away. And I think that made it really hard to set up the show. It took a longer time, and for me, it made me lose my engagement a little.
Yeah, fair enough. There is just too many characters, to be honest, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. For me, I really enjoyed it, but like I said before, the episodes, in my opinion, were a little bit too long, but I do definitely recommend it for anyone who enjoys murder mysteries or crime thrillers or anything in that genre, really.
Yeah, I definitely think you should go check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. That's all we have time for today, and head over to our Instagram to let us know what you thought of our final episode.
I know, I can't believe it's the last one. Thanks everyone for joining us, not only today, but in our last 3 episodes as well.
We've had a lot of fun filming and reviewing these shows for you, and we've hoped we made your lockdown a little easier.
And for the very last time, here is Michael with his latest game review.
Hey, I'm Michael Georgia with your new gaming suggestion. Today's game is Uno. That's right, the card game, but as a video game. Now, most people know how to play Uno, but in case you don't or need a refresher, Uno is played by matching the colour or value of the card that is currently in play, with action cards changing things up as you go. The way to win is by emptying your hand before everyone else. But what makes the video game version different is the variety and customization. The game has 2 different modes, standard play, which is a standard 4-player game of Uno, and a 2v2 mode, where you partner up with another player. Both of these modes support online play. As well as that, this version has 6 different house rules that change up how the game is played, such as a jump in, which allows a player to play a card given that it is the same as another just played, even if it is not their turn. The game also has a number of different themes to change things up. These themes are all DLC, downloadable content, which are the Rabbids, Just Dance, Rayman and Uno Flip themes that all add new music, backgrounds and new action cards that make sure every game you play is different to the last. The game is available on Xbox One, PS4, PC and Nintendo Switch, and you can get a standard edition and a new Ultimate edition that comes with all the DLC. I've always enjoyed Uno, and the video game makes it much more enjoyable and exciting, especially if you're playing with friends. My rating for this game is 8 out of 10. That is all from me. Back to Will and Nadia.
Thanks for that, streaming team. It'll be exciting to have some movie nights with friends now that things are starting to look like they'll be returning to normal.
And that brings us to the end of the show for this week, and for the end of the semester, in fact. It's been a strange few weeks. How have you found it all, Nadia?
It has been such a strange experience. I think when we all kind of started this semester, none of us expected that a global pandemic would hit. But I think one of the most impressive parts is how the whole team has really adapted to this time. I remember one of the early weeks where we were all kind of sitting in our Upstart studio room, and we were really trying to think about how we were going to pull off this show, and we didn't know what kind of guests we were going to be able to get on, if we would even be able to do interviews, how the quality of our content would be, and how the responsiveness of the team would be. We have about almost 20 people, in an online sphere. So it's been difficult, but it's actually been really rewarding. And I really just want to say thank you to our whole team for all of the effort that they've put in week after week, getting this show together. There's so many little parts that really come together to make this show what it is. How about you, Will?
Yeah, no, I'd echo all those sentiments. I'm definitely proud of the whole team for sure. Don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I think we've just made the most of a bad situation, and we pushed on through, and it all worked out in the end. I hope, anyway.
So we just want to say thank you to anyone who has been tuning in or watching the lockdown this semester. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at upstart_LTU for updates about the show. I'm Nadia.
And I'm Will, and thank you for watching Lockdown. It's been a pleasure bringing the show to you, and we'd like to leave you with some of the more light-hearted moments from the last few weeks.
See ya.
While we're waiting for the chocolate balls to dry, the chocolate spheres, I mean.
This week we're focusing on the castanets. Nope.
Thanks, Will. What did you do that for?
While nothing will compare to the live show experience, sakes.
We knew the challenge and we faced it head on.
No one shushes in this house.
This game also has a number of... This game... I can't talk anymore, Dan.
Victorian Police Officer James... I can't. Oh my god, I'm gonna forget this one.
I don't actually have...
That those over the age of seven...
Just keep going.
You can't stutter.
Yes, you
it
can.
sounds...
Oh my god.
2 weeks, we will be working... No. Sorry.
Sick.
This version... As well as that, this version has a... As well as that, this version has different house rules that change things up.
All the underrated and... I forgot the whole thing. Nope. Grows up in with grows up with tension.
Oh, I was recording. Oh.
Only reopened for couples to stay at her accommodation.
None of this. None of this. Not okay.
Patrick Bram... I stuff that up every time.
Alright, now now your face behind that camera is hilarious.
Okay, I think we did pretty well. Yeah.